for the privilege we have to represent the town as council, and pray, Father, that we might be able to make wise decisions on behalf of our citizens. May thou bless the Shaw family at this time as they grieve the loss of their beloved grandmother and mother and aunt and so many great-grandmother also. And pray that all may find peace knowing that she's in a better world and not suffering any longer. We pray, Father, for the blessing upon our proceedings, and this was found in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
All right. So we're going to start our council meeting this 23rd of January 2018, and we'd like to recognize our media, Corey McCarthy for Channel 32, and Bill Creed for Temple Stars. Thank you so much for being here to let our citizens be informed. And we are grateful for our delegation, then Sharon Semignac, who will do a reporting for us. So thank you. We will look at the agenda right now. We have one addition that will go in camera. And I will cite the FOIP section as is now required by the MGA. So it's FOIP 161 ABCI, and you will have the following information given to you when we get in camera. It has to do with the campground. Okay. So, Councillor Barnes, you're saying you have...
Yeah, I'm just trying to see here in the background. You were going to discuss something about your appointment.
Yes.
And I wanted to discuss something about my appointment on the Chinook Arch as well.
Okay, so...
Could probably go in the same spot where...
So we're going to put it... no, because if it has to do an appointment...
Yeah.
Okay, Chinook Arch. Let's put it on the 16th.
Okay.
Okay?
I do have something as well, but I figured it could be under...
the committees?
Exactly.
Okay, all right. So I'll make sure that you have something.
Mayor, we could just speak to our committee assignments regarding those reports that are already there.
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, we will. Okay, so we...
Motion to accept the agenda as
amended?
amended.
Thank you. All in favor? Thank you very much. All right, that is all yours. And thank you for taking the time to come and debrief us. And I know today is probably the first time that you come and work with a new council. So it's going to take a little bit more help for us all to understand the sections.
No, absolutely.
And probably the stats, understand how you calculate them all.
Sure. We'll touch
Thank
a
you.
little bit on that, and then hopefully next week with the policing committee we can get into that a little bit more too.
Thank you.
So with our stats, when you look at them, that's everything that's reported to us. So just to have an understanding of that. With our fourth quarter is our third quarter, which makes it even more confusing. But our persons offenses, we had 24, property offenses 58, other criminal code 95, drugs 5, provincial statutes minus traffic 280, provincial traffic 58, criminal code traffic 5, and collisions 26. And number of persons lodged in cells over that 3-month period was 63. So for us, it was actually a relatively quiet quarter. I think a lot of that is indicative of the weather we had in October, where we were a lot busier on the highway with the accidents and stuff like that, and cooler temperatures.
Right. The cold weather always helps
Yeah, it helps in one area and other areas go up, so.
Yes, it helps in town, not so much on the road.
Right.
Councillors, are there some sections that you would like Sergeant Semeniak to help you understand what the data are?
I can't even find the report on my stuff here.
Councillor, could you maybe take your,
Paper.
Oh, here, okay. There you go.
yes,
This is not on a regular stats, but I'm asking, with our peace officer, does that include those people who are turned into your?
Yeah, it will create, yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you, Zane.
okay. Are there any specific area that troubles you?
Just a question, I think, more for the sergeant. Seems like the property offenses have been sometimes gradually, sometimes microscopically increasing for the last 3 years. Any thoughts? Or is that just people not being
No.
diligent in terms of locking their doors?
It's a couple things, a lot of that, it's crime of opportunity, so it's the locking of the doors, locking of cars, not having valuables in the open. A lot of it too is where people never used to report things to us, whereas now we see a lot more of that, which is good, so I mean, that drives that stat up, which doesn't look so good, but at the same time, we're better informed of what's going on.
Okay,
Or, you know, it
so,
wouldn't be beneficial for us to just put a reminder up on our bulletin board in front of the office to citizens to lock their cars, lock their doors.
Yeah, you see a lot of it, you'll see like with, especially cars, or the keys left in them,
Yeah.
and stuff like that, so.
you're correct, Councillor. I try to do that every time I write the letter to the citizens. I remind them constantly of not becoming a victim of a crime of opportunity, because it's so easy, especially in the summertime. I don't know how many bikes you own at this point in your detachment, but I know a couple of years ago there was a garage full of them that nobody claimed, and they all came from town. So people need to know also that there are some things that are retrieved and they are in the hand of the RCMP.
And there's lots of things too where people become complacent. You lock your doors for a while and everything's good, and then you go back, you revert back to how you've always done things. So.
Right. So, Councillor Brown?
I have a question. So in these areas that is listed, where is the homeless people on Main Street? Where would they be under? Are they under drugs? Are they under other?
It'd be other provincial acts.
Other.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you look at the last list, maybe Sergeant Semeniak, you may want to talk a little bit about the lodging of people in your cells and help us understand how long you're able to hold them and what is the parameter around which you are working.
Normally someone who's intoxicated, and they have to be grossly intoxicated to go into cells, we hold for 8 hours. If we arrest someone and we're looking at criminal charges, we have up to a day to hold in cells.
Right. So when you see a number of incarceration, which was relatively half, almost a third of the quarter before, it almost tells you that the weather was a factor,
Absolutely.
right? So every time the weather is more clement, there's more intoxication on the street and more
That,
arrest.
as you see, like with persons, crimes and stuff like that, if we arrest someone, if we process them, they go into cells. So, I mean, that counts as
Okay.
a person being lodged. So not necessarily are all those people intoxicated, that it shows in those stats.
Right. And so here is another aspect that might be interesting to new councillors. What do you call intoxication?
Someone who's grossly intoxicated. If you can walk and talk and have a sense of direction, you're not intoxicated.
Right. So that's a definition.
Right.
In other words, you could be under the influence, but as long as you can walk and as long as you can speak,
Right.
even if you walk a little bit, not straight,
You have a
but,
sense of direction and you know where you're going, then yeah, you'll probably continue on your way.
right. And so that is where the definition is sometimes troublesome for people in town, because I think the minute they have taken toxic substances,
Yeah,
they should not be on the street.
Right, 'cause it's for the
But that is
person's-
not the case.
Yeah, you lodge them for their safety, right? It's not a punitive type thing, so.
Right. Councillor Brown?
So I'm new here, so I just have a few questions. So if we were to talk about the homeless people on Main Street and trying to stop the problem, of course, the very first thing is for us to stop giving them money. That's the very first thing. But if they are not intoxicated, like severely intoxicated, is there nothing that can be done as far as the RCMP goes?
As far as what though? If they're grossly intoxicated?
So if they're hanging out on the corner at the Cahoon Hotel, if they're asking people panhandling,
That's different, but if they're just sitting there as a group, no.
there's nothing that we can do.
They have the right to gather under the Charter of Right.
And the panhandling?
Well, that's a little bit different. I mean, there's a municipal bylaw that covers that and such, so.
Right, okay,
A
thank
lot of
you.
it has to do too with people wanting to cooperate with the court process when it comes to criminal code stuff. So people can call in and report things, but if they're not willing to provide statements or go to court, your hands are pretty well tied.
What I say. As far as the bystanders goes,
Right.
if I'm going to report something, I
Right,
need to be
and-
sure to go the whole distance.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Especially
And
when
a
it
lot
comes
of
to
people-
cause disturbance and such like that. Because as a police officer, I can't be disturbed. As ironic as that sounds.
Okay, interesting, thank you.
Does that make sense? Clarifies a few
I
things?
know, but
And,
yes.
and if you have any further, like, don't hesitate to pop in and see me. I'm there most of the time. It's open, so.
Awesome.
I took the challenge that you offered us and found it extremely informative, and I would suggest that all of you should really take time to go and visit the RCMP detachment and have Dan Semeniak kind of inform you of the role of the RCMP, the jurisdictions, and exactly how they do their work day by day.
Yeah, and you get to see what we deal with day by day.
So I very much had appreciated that visit, so thank you so much for making yourself available.
No problem.
So thank your detachment. We appreciate the work they do. Today I saw 2 officers on Main Street walking and being quite aware of what was going on around them. So thank you for having that visibility. That's what the merchants always seem to tell us, that more visible the better for them. So thank you so
No,
much.
thank you.
Thanks. And we shall meet as a committee on Wednesday.
Yeah, sounds good. Look forward to seeing you then.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
See you.
Thank you. All right, we have 2 sets of minutes that need to be approved. The regular meeting of council, January 9th, 2018.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Court. Any question regarding those minutes? The minutes? No. All in favor? Thank you very much. And we now need to adopt under 5B special meeting of council, January 16.
I make a motion to accept January 16th, 2018 in council chambers.
Thank you. All in favor? Thank you very much. And that special meeting, as if you recall for the press, was the discussion of all the contracts that were sent to the town regarding the golf course operation. Oh, I think I need to initial those pages too.
Especially some of the papers.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay?
Thanks.
Thank you. All right, let's go on the bylaw and policy. Southborough Executive Membership Invitation. Here's a little bit what's happening with Southborough. When the changes occurred in October, well, November, with the changes of elected officials, that organization lost town representative and villages representative. So they find themselves short, and right now they find themselves with a member that resigned just 3 weeks ago to go on a different job appointment. They find themselves without a quorum. And so I got a friendly email, and they asked me if I could at least be there until June when they have their AGM. And I told them that that depends on this council appointing me. So it's up to you to decide. So I said, because that was an appointment that I had before, I would not claim a per diem. I will only claim the mileage. So, and if mileage is an issue, they're willing to pay my mileage.
They're willing to pay your mileage?
Yes.
So that is an issue.
But it all depends. I mean, you know, that is the extreme, you know what I mean? So I need a motion to appoint me or not appoint me, but I need something.
I make a motion to appoint you.
Thank you. All in favor? Thank you very much. All right, so that is done.
Is that the same committee that Councillor Barnes?
Mine's the same situation.
Okay, well, we'll talk about, give us a chance to go through them, and we'll talk about Yoshinoka if you have the other one. Help us. 6B, bylaw 1618A, traffic safety bylaw amendment. In all my years, I've never done this error, but somehow I made an error and confessed to it. I jumped the gun a little too quick. I said we needed a second reading, but I did not let you give me a motion to that effect. And we went and approved a third reading, and there we had a motion. So in other words, we need to rescind. So you need to look at the direction that is given to you. You need to read it exactly to me as the motion is given, so that this time we're able to do it right. So we need to rescind that third reading, and then we need to approve the second reading and the third reading.
I'll make the motion to rescind bylaw 1618A, the traffic safety bylaw, to rescind the third reading.
Okay, so can you maybe read the motion the way it is? There is a whereas. Do you have it somewhere, somebody?
You want me to just?
Yeah, could you read it?
Okay, whereas bylaw 1618A traffic safety bylaw amendment was not given a distinct second reading at the regular meeting of council held on January the 9th, 2018. Be it resolved by this council that motion number 2018-5, a motion to give bylaw 1618A third and final reading be rescinded so that the said bylaw may receive 3 distinct and separate readings and come into force.
Okay, so that's what you said. So all in favor? Thank you very much. So now we need a motion to approve.
Second reading.
Okay, Councillor Selk.
I'd like to move that bylaw 1618A, the traffic bylaw safety amendment as amended since first reading be given second reading.
Thank you. All in favor? Thank you. So now we need the last motion.
I'd make a motion that we have third read.
Thank you. For bylaw
For bylaw
1618A.
1618A.
Thank you. All.
Is it not a motion to allow third reading?
That's what that
No,
was.
no.
No, I don't have to do that?
No.
Okay. Then I will make that motion to accept third reading for bylaw 1618A, the traffic safety bylaw amendment.
Okay, all in favor? Thank you. This time I paid attention. I'm so sorry.
Right.
Okay, all right. So 6C is a draft bylaw 1643. We will not go beyond first reading on this one, and only if you feel comfortable with that. So here is the intent. This bylaw has a lot of teeth into it. We do not know if that bylaw will be accepted in court because of the high cost attached to the penalty. But what we know is that Fort MacLeod, with a very similar bylaw, is receiving 80% success only if they can convince a judge that the idea of the penalty that I know cannot be paid by people who will be arrested under that bylaw will be for the better of the person that had been apprehended, meaning that they will accept to go for treatment. And the judge seemed to be fairly confident that that is a proper way to go for people who have repeat problem. And under that bylaw, we are willing to try and see whenever the opportunity comes, or whenever the case comes, I don't like the word opportunity really, to be going to court. We would not be going to court every week. The intent is to make sure that if we have 2 or 3 cases, they will all go to court the same day to limit the cost of the judge, of the lawyer having to be there in a courtroom. So it is not to be punitive, it is there to try to find a way to help those people. Councillor?
Mayor, as I was reviewing this bylaw, if you go back to page 5 of the 9 pages and look at damages and graffiti, I have a concern about number 12 and 12A, and that's where every owner or occupier of a premise shall ensure that graffiti applied on the premises is removed, painted over, or otherwise permanently blocked from public view within 7 days of receiving written notice from a peace officer.
Yeah, if you remember...
I have a problem with that,
Okay.
because that owner did not spray that graffiti on there. Now we're taxing him in a way to have it removed.
Councillor, can I tell you that section of the bylaw was not changed? That has always been there.
Well, then I think it needs to be reviewed.
And if you so feel, but I can tell you that when I was in a public sector, and that I was in schools, and my job every Monday morning was to remove syringe and to paint over graffiti. And the reason being that it's a deterrent for those graffiti happy-go-lucky people to repeat. And we have found that to be very, very true. So there is something there, and I can tell you that in the past we have worked with the merchants, and we have offered them even paint for that matter if that was an issue.
Well,
and if you remember, Lloyd even went and sprayed over and cleaned some
I
of it.
still have a problem with that 12 and the 12A, because we are actually charging them for something that somebody else did on their business.
It's not any
and to me-
different.
No, to me, it is just another
Okay.
tax.
And you know something? There is a way to look at it it looked like a punishment for the merchant. I totally agree with you, I don't disagree with you. But what I also know is that if you don't remove it, and the police will tell you that, if it is not removed rapidly, it's going to become a wall of graffiti even more.
Then the person that's doing the graffiti, and they find it, that person should be the one that has to remove it.
I agree with you when that comes.
That's what I was going to bring up as well, although it's a bit of an inconvenience. You can't take him to small claims court because the damage is done. Good luck collecting any money from them, but that's one option, legal option that you can do.
It's very difficult.
It takes a-
There is something that is better for us. There are more and more cameras on Main Street, more and more cameras in areas that we know are concerns to the citizens and to the town. So that is good, in a sense that we can now at least put a face to the offender and hopefully put a name.
Now, just a thought, at one time, past council has talked about a youth justice committee. And it's the youth that are doing this kind of garbage.
Not always.
Possibly this is something that could be a deterrent to those young people who are committing all these little petty offenses. Get them out there scrubbing that stuff off and painting those walls and things like that.
I have no problem with all that, and I think Brad would be interested. Brad is not there, so we cannot ask him what's his way of dealing with it. But I am sure that community service for someone who is an offender is not a bad deterrent. I agree with you, I totally agree. The problem is with the painting. For example, in the winter time, we know we cannot paint outside. So the only thing we can do is scrub. And so we have some solutions that we normally give to the merchants, or we help them. So that's what we have done in the past. I mean, we also understand the situation. Painting under 20 below is impossible. Councillor, so.
Here, I think item 13 actually answers Councillor Brown's question regarding the cocoon.
Okay, go ahead.
It says that no person shall loiter on any private property where an owner or occupier has expressly stated that he or she does not want persons loitering at that location. There's signage on the cocoon.
Yes, there is signage
No
now.
loitering, no sitting on the steps.
Which means that can be enforced at this point.
Exactly.
Okay, so,
I was going to throw an example out there since Mr. Malin purchased the Kronen Hotel. I haven't seen anybody sitting on those steps. They've been cold.
It's been too cold.
all right, so there is, if there is an appetite to entertain a first reading, Councillor Selk?
I'd move that we accept first reading of this bylaw.
All right, thank you. So, Councillor Bengry, your point is well taken, and I think before we do second and third reading, there's still time to discuss that issue.
And I'd like to have
Okay.
our peace officer here when we
And-
discuss that.
Yeah, it could be something we can request.
Thank you.
So, all in favor of first reading? Thank you very much. Okay. So, Councillor Barnes, it's yours to talk about your appointment for the Chinook Lodge. Help me understand.
Yeah. Okay, so I am the representative for the library, the Cardston Library. And as that representative, it goes along with that, I'm also appointed to be the Chinook Arch representative. So it's a
Correct.
twofold. So I
Correct.
have a quarterly meeting, every 4 months there's a meeting in Lethbridge that I have to attend to as
Right.
well. They pay my mileage
Right.
on that. But they've asked me to be on the finance committee with Lloyd Curl, he's the head of the finance committee. And they've asked me to, along with 3 other persons, to be on that committee because they've got lots of committees and they didn't have anybody for that committee. So they asked me if I would consider being on that committee. So it involved another trip into Lethbridge again for that meeting, and it's usually a couple hours or so.
So what is it? Is that a trip every quarter? Is that a quarterly meeting?
I think, but I'm not certain, it might be every other month, it might be every 2 months, but I have to find those details. They didn't have all the details for me yet. So there'd be some involvement with at least gas anyways, mileage on that.
Okay. All right, so.
But I don't know if they pay that, they pay for the regular meeting mileage, and they said they pay them where council won't pay them. And so they were asking me about this, whether or not the town would pay my mileage in for that one meeting.
So you don't know if it's a bi-monthly or?
I have to find out, I have to get a hold of Mr. Curl and find that out, but it's either going to be every 2 months or it's going to be a quarterly
Okay,
meeting.
so do you want us to maybe leave it until you have your answer?
Yeah, I just wanted to
Okay.
bring it up there to let you know.
All right, so why don't you bring it back at next council
Okay.
meeting with your answer? So like
Okay.
this, we able to make a
Okay,
motion that makes sense.
I'll do that.
Okay, thank you.
And I think that's, yeah. Oh, and one other thing. There's an annual conference, a 2-day conference in Lethbridge for the, all the, well, it's the Chinook Arch Regional Library Conference that they have, and they bring people as far north as Edmonton area to come down for this, and so that's a 2-day conference, and there is a per diem involved in that. I've gone to that in the past, and I've always gotten per diem, so I want to make sure it's still there.
All right, so why don't we bring all of that?
We get all
issue
together?
All
I know the
together.
dates on the one.
Yeah,
file.
maybe bring all that with the detail,
Okay.
and then we'll be able to
Okay,
make a
that's
better
fair.
job with it. Thank you. All right, under 7A, Councillor Court, you want to talk about the cenotaph at this time, or do you?
Yes, I do, if that's okay. Just briefly, it's going on fine, except for we run into a bit of a problem. No offense, Mary, 'cause I know you're French, but they're requiring us to have it in French and in English. And if you look at this is
I'm
Raymond's.
not offended, I'm just interested to see.
Well, I guess the concern we have here is there are very few French-speaking people, but in order to access the grant, we have to have all the writing in French and in English. Now,
You know, when you really think about all those people who fought overseas, mainly on French soil, not a bad idea.
okay, we had a discussion on that, but here's the problem we're running into. This is what I'm padding on. This is the Raymond one. And I really like the idea of the top part. That is the Legion's kind of signature. If we have to put that in French as well, then we're gonna have to redesign our
You know
whole thing.
something, would the grant allow you to just have in honor of our dead in French?
Well, that's what I'm bringing this for. Myself, I would like to have the whole thing on there, because that's just what it is. But we could just put the top part on there. On the 9th of February, I'm visiting with the county, hoping that they will match whatever we're contributing to the cenotaph. If they will, we could almost do this without the grant, and then we could put it the way we want to put it.
Okay, hold on a second. We had set aside $50,000.
15,000, yes.
15,000.
50.
15.
15.
1.5.
For this,
Cenotaph.
yeah, for this budget year, 15.
I get you.
If the county would match that, and if the Legion comes up with their 5,000 or 6,000, I think we could probably do it. But again, we could go with just in honor of our dead, and then put French underneath it, and go from there and apply for the grant. Or we can try and get the county on board and do it ourselves and put what we want on there. I'm just looking for some advice from the council.
Okay, would you mind me asking a question? Thank you, thank you. I'm just wondering, are you able to access the people that approve the grants or that sent the invitation for grant writing? Because I would like
Her
to
name
know.
is Jenna Clark.
Okay, all right. So I'm wondering if you could contact her and get a sense that if we do the top translation, if that would satisfy the grant, or if theirs is to translate the whole thing.
I'm just looking at the last paragraph of the last letter she sent to Alex down there, and it says, all inscriptions on any new memorial built under this program must be in both French and English.
All inscriptions.
And the text must be provided to the review committee as part of the application. I don't think they're going to move on that.
The writing is long. that
It
you
is,
have,
it is.
And that's maybe the
We could
issue.
maybe do away with the bottom one. I just have a hard time wanting to do away with the top part.
That's the key word.
Okay, so if you were to do away with the bottom one and use that as a translation function,
The problem is that long of a one, we would probably have to put it on English on one side, French on the other side. We're talking a bigger monument now.
no,
We'd have to
what
go-
about if you were to take the French and if it was written on the bottom, the translation, instead of the
You're talking
scriptures?
this part up here.
Yeah.
If
and
they
put
would
it
fit
there.
on there, I could talk to Kenny and we'd have to talk to the monument people.
Why don't you try to see if that could be an option?
We could see if we could do that.
Because that would retain the motto of the Legion,
Yeah,
and that would still satisfy possibly your grant.
yeah.
Maybe you want
We
to
could
try
try
to
to-
see that,
We're
because
already
I
gonna
think
have
you
to
would
have-
have enough space for it.
Keep in mind, there's 28 names here, we have 68. So our monument's gonna be a little bit longer and the wording's gonna be a little bit smaller.
Right.
So maybe we can squeeze that in the bottom, I'll have to ask the monument.
Could you
people to
maybe
them.
try that? Because I think the more you're able to access grant, the better it is for all of us.
Okay, here's the other issue I run into. We have to let them know by, the grant people, by the 26th, because they meet in February.
The 26th of January?
We've already been talking to them.
Okay.
We just have to email them back and tell them, well, there was a few questions they asked that we'd answer. This is the one that I couldn't
Okay,
answer.
because you would have to answer in honor of all that, put that in French properly.
Yes,
And,
and the other part in French and in English. Now,
yeah,
I guess I shouldn't even ask this, because it's going to upset the sensibilities of people out here to have their monument in French and English.
you know something? When it comes to grant, and when it comes to our country, that's our country. It's not, I understand the problem with Alberta.
We would be better off to have that writing in Blackfoot than we would be in French, because we have Blackfoot people on this monument.
It's true.
Furthermore, Mayor, maybe the grant committee could take some of the $11 billion that Quebec gets in equalization payments from the province of Alberta and apply it to this.
Councillor Selk, can we leave that for other politicians to discuss? Thank you.
So I guess the question is, we can go ahead with the grant and just try and jig it around, or I can go after I guess we can wait and hit them in the next quarter when they do grants and talk to the county. I would like to have this done by November 2018, because it's the 100th anniversary of World War I. If we don't get it then, okay,
Essentially, what you need to make sure that we had altogether an idea of $50,000 for
Correct.
the project. We also had an idea of about $35,000 in revenue.
yes.
So-
The actual cost we figured out was 40,000, and that's probably a little bit high.
Right.
We could probably do it for 35, I think.
Essentially, what we need to figure out, if the Legion cannot come up with the $15,000 that we're trying to give us in the first
5,000.
year,
5 for them.
I thought it was 15
15 for
altogether.
us, I hope 15 for the county, and then 5 from them. I guess it's 35.
That's 30.
Okay,
I guess
so
what-
there are a lot of unknowns yet.
Yes, I guess what we can do is hold off on this grant, finishing it up till the next quarter. I believe they do them quarterly, until I talk to the county.
Okay,
That cuts us a little bit close to getting it done in the fall, but I still think it can be done.
okay.
So maybe I'll talk to Alex and I'll have him talk to her and see if we can hold off until the March, April, whatever time that is. Probably be June before we would know that,
I like the idea of having it as a memorial for the 100th year.
yeah.
I like that, but
I will talk-
essentially,
Yeah.
it might work, it might not work.
Yeah.
But altogether, what we want to make sure is that monument exists in
Yeah.
our town.
Exactly.
So at one point or another, we want it done. So
All right.
let's do it within the parameters that financially make sense.
Okay. I will talk to Alex, I'll talk to Ken tomorrow. I'm out of town the next 2 days. I'll catch him tonight and see if they think they can put that on there at the bottom. If they can't, then we'll go ahead with it.
Right.
Yes,
If we can't, then maybe I'll hold off for a quarter.
yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Bengry?
Councillor Court, along with this cenotaph, what is happening with the original one that's there?
The original one's still planning, we're still planning on putting it in the field of honor out at the cemetery.
Oh, okay.
Yes, that's what. Okay, so does that give you enough direction, Councillor? Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other question for Councillor? No.
I had a comment
Okay,
that I don't speak French, but my dad fought in France for a long time.
yeah.
And he was honored by the French people, and I have no problem with the French.
I don't either, it's just extra cost,
I know it is,
you know.
and that's
Well-
probably where the grant would have to come in.
That's why they give you a grant, no?
I guess we,
Anyway, anything that's federal needs to be done in two languages, that it rubs us the right way or the wrong way, makes no difference, it's the way the
That's
grant
correct.
is written. Okay, let's go to 7C, Farm Safety Center. In the past, we always have given the Farm Safety Program $200 in donation from the general donation grant. That allows them to give classes to students in our schools regarding operation of equipment, etc., and be safe around farm equipment.
oh, yeah.
So what I need is really a motion to approve it.
Question first.
Go ahead.
I think they're asking for $300 this year.
No, to a maximum of 300, it says.
We always have done 200.
All right, then I'll make the motion.
Okay, go ahead.
Move that we give the Farm Safety Center $200 from the general donation
Fund.
fund.
Just,
Question?
no, I'm just.
All in favor?
I'm just.
Thank you. All right, so that's good.
We skipped 7B.
Remington Center, 7B.
B.
Yeah, we're going to deal with that.
Okay, I leave you.
All right, so the Remington Carriage Museum, the parade, here's the issue. The Remington Carriage will no longer allow carriage to be used in any town that throw candies in a parade. But what we are here to discuss is maybe a hybrid model. So the hybrid model will be as follows. And because the Rotary is in charge of the parade, I want to know our opinion. And I want to know what we can come up with to resolve that issue in our town, if we intend to carry on giving candy. So if we intend to carry on candy, that's the first question we need to answer. Do we want to do it? We do. We have a whole mounted section that is up front, out of the parade. The whole mounted section. Because the issue is the horses. When you throw candy and the kids come towards the carriages, it's dangerous. So in order to the mounted section of the parade, which had not only the officials in it, at least the MLA, the MP, the marshal, and the citizen of the year are all part of that, would not throw any candy. And if we had a blood tribe chief or whatever, then the rest of the parade, we might be in the trolley for that matter, or we could be on a flat bed for that matter. We have different models that we can. We'd be trucked by a truck and not by horses. So, yes,
The option would be used to have other horses from somebody other than the Remington. So
if we had a
Dr.
trolley,
Jones might be able to bring his horses.
Who?
Dr. Jones.
if we had a trolley,
Right.
we could have his horses pulled out.
And we'd still be able to throw candy.
Yes. So if that is what you want to do, or be in cars, or be whichever, then we can use that model. If you want it to be without candy, that's another option. If you want to do something like former Councillor Creed used to do, give flyers around and walk next to the trolley, next to the carriages, that's another option. So, discussion.
I think if you think the golf course was a hot topic last week, take the candy out of the parade.
Right?
Well, that's exactly what I really thought. It's maybe not the right time for us to remove the candy at this point.
No, I really think either, like you suggested, or have people walk along the parade route and hand it out to kids.
Still have to have
But
candy.
I find the Lethbridge Parade very boring,
It is, amen.
and the kids come there, they like the reward. I got 12 grandkids that show up every year, so.
Okay. So, any other comments? Councillor Selk?
This also includes going to other parades. The Remington Carriage Museum has been taking us to, right?
Any parade
So
Allows
that,
candy.
but we go to Pincher Creek. Pincher Creek has no candy. There are people walking along and giving candy aside. You cannot throw them. The Fort MacLeod, you cannot put candy either.
They carry them. They take
You
them.
carry them on the side. You have kids who have buckets and send them to the crowd. The Lethbridge one, there is no thing. The
Scottsdale Parade doesn't allow it. You can carry it, but you
Yeah.
can't throw it from your.
So
Which is Raymond McGrath.
the Raymond, McGrath, and Sterling still have the candy.
So we all get a golf cart from our golf course, advertise the golf course and throw candy from it.
Heck, you know what?
That's a
Maybe
great
not such
idea.
a stupid
I think it's a
idea.
great idea.
You know what? Coaldale does that. They have their councils in golf carts.
Well, now you have the answer.
That's a great
Councillor
idea.
Bengry, who I was thinking.
Be like the old Shriners Club.
That's a great. We should be.
Yeah.
We'll be the Shiners Club.
Okay, Councillor, let's be serious.
So do we need a motion? What do we need
Yes,
on that?
yes,
But you could put your signs on the side of a golf cart.
we need
Any
to.
way you do it, I still think there needs to be candy involved.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
So we will keep the candy and we'll have the mounted section up
Yeah.
front.
Yeah.
Okay, so that
If
is
you
the
want to hand it
answer.
up, if that's a better way of doing it, I'm fine with that
So,
too.
can I make a motion then? That
Sure.
we-
Can I just ask to clarify, so for the parades that don't allow candy, you still would like to use the Remington carriages? Is that the plan?
Sure.
And then those that have candy, find an alternative arrangement, whether it's the carts or cars or a flatbed trailer with
Yeah,
chairs on
we
it or
can
something?
discuss that.
Or a truck hauling the,
Or possibly Dr. Jones with
yeah,
that kind of an arrangement?
yeah,
with not
there's
having
options,
Okay.
Yeah, we do have.
definitely.
But essentially, what we have Jeff that needs to go on February the 7th. He has a meeting with the Rotary, and they really need to know what we intend to do. Okay? Fair enough? Good enough?
Yep.
Thank you. Do we need a motion to that effect? Maybe we should.
Councillor Court, make your motion.
I don't know if
I
it's
said-
necessary.
Councilor Brown wants to make the motion.
That we will have a mounted section up front.
So I make a motion that we have a mounted section up front and that we keep our candy in our parade.
Thank you. All in favor? All right, so there we go. Financial report, I don't know. Okay, financial report. Yeah, emergency management training for council. Now, there is going to be a local training that's going to happen.
April 5th and 6th.
Councillor Selk, no, I think it's Councillor Barnes that is on that committee with me.
Yep.
All right, so that is open to all the councillors. Essentially, it's not a bad meeting to go to if you have not had that training before. It allows you to understand what your role is as a councillor regarding an emergency situation. It helps you to understand how an emergency is declared, what's your role in it. It helps you to understand how communication needs to happen. All those things are not a bad thing to do. I have taken a training at least twice. And I would say if there are some people who want to do it, it's a good thing. The only thing is Easter week right now. There are 3 dates, so we need to figure out what the third date is that might not be within that Easter week.
First thing, Mayor, we need to correct our backgrounder under D, emergency management training for council. That email came from Janet Edwards and not Janet Beck.
Right.
Okay, all right.
Janet's in McGrath, and Janet Edwards is
It's-
the village manager at
Yes,
Hillsborough.
that's right.
Janet Beck was
Yes, I'm glad you picked that up. You would know those people better than I do. Thank you.
If I just might make a comment. It's been my experience that if we don't constantly have these updates, these upgrades, and these emergency meetings, we have a tendency to forget, and we get into a situation where, we all of a sudden we kind of freeze. Now, I'm going to take a case in point with the fire that we had. There was a lot of miscommunication. There was a lot of communication that happened between some parties, but there were miscommunications.
In our town?
I know, our town was fine.
Because I was
But
thinking,
I'll tell you where it stemmed from. Okay, so on the computer model, the provincial emergency people had the whole of southern Alberta on fire, including our town.
I understand what
Okay.
you're saying, yeah.
And then the people that were managing the Waterton campground there,
Yeah.
the Creasons, they weren't given any information. There was no communication between Pincher Creek or the Parks Canada. They didn't know what they were doing.
Okay,
They had to do their own alerts, and they had to do everything
Yeah.
and get their
Yeah, I
people. They had
remember
70 or
that
80
story.
campers in there. And at the last minute, when they had everybody out and they were pulling out, then somebody came from the emergency services and said, "You gotta get out of here right now, you gotta get..."
okay.
Well, they did it on their own, and they shouldn't have had to have that stress. So
Okay.
I think it's very important that we, at least on a yearly basis,
They had
Okay.
contacted the county of Pincher Creek twice.
yes, and they
Right.
didn't have any information for them.
So I would love to go to that.
Okay, so
I'll be going.
by a show of hand, how many of you would like to go? I will go because it's always a reminder.
Yeah.
I think the whole
Yeah.
of
Is it a
that,
one-day
Well-
thing at 4 hours? What is
it's about 4 hours.
Okay.
It's about a half a day. Yes.
Do you have a preference on the dates then?
Well, can
What
you
day
give
is
me
Easter,
the
did
3
you say?
dates?
So the Easter Sunday is the 1st of April this year, so the 5th and 6th is that Easter week.
Okay,
She wants either Thursday or Friday would work best for her, so maybe the 12th, 13th might be
that would be better.
the week after.
The week
I
after,
think it
yeah,
would
the
be
9th,
better.
13th.
Thursday or Friday work better for council.
Friday would be better for me, but
Friday's
whatever.
fine, I can get away.
In the
It's
morning.
12 or 13 of April, okay. Councillor Bengry, we need to know if Friday it's good for you or Thursday is better, I don't know. For that training.
It's during the day, is that what you said?
Yes. It's normally in the morning. You don't normally go there by 9 and you're normally done by 12.
I would have to check on my work schedule. I don't know offhand,
Right.
so I could get back to you.
I usually don't get out of bed on Friday the 13th.
So right now, we're looking at April 13th. Here's the
Yeah.
Yes, that'd be
I can
fine.
let you know tomorrow.
Don't put that in the paper.
So the training will be in Councillor Court's bedroom for the rest of us.
For that day.
That's scary.
All right. Thank you so much, councillors.
Where is it?
It's in Lethbridge.
Hillsborough.
Okay, oh yeah, Selk Street, that's right. So that's a case where we can probably all kind of try to write together. Okay. Thank you. The financial report, I don't think there is one. There is, I don't remember seeing one. Okay, let's go to the committee reports. Councillor Selk, you wanted to address some issues. You have something you need to communicate. Fire truck, maybe?
No, actually.
You don't want to talk about this one? Okay, all right.
I'll talk about their, Councillor Court and I have received an invitation to go to the emergency call center in
Oh,
Black
yes,
Bridge.
Rich, yes.
I think it's on Friday, it was listed in that report, I guess we need a paper blessing for that.
Yes,
Remember what date that was, Councillor?
that's this Friday.
This Friday. Yeah, that's right.
And it's
You know, it's a very interesting, I took that tour. You will find it quite interesting. It's a busy place,
We need a motion to,
yeah.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, so,
That we
Send.
allow, and send Councillor Selk and Councillor Court to that.
Is there, well, there'll be mileage for sure, is there a per diem on that one as well? Is it the
most
day?
likely,
Is it a-
You bet.
most likely is.
Yeah, so
Including mileage.
you want to add
It's
that?
about a 2 hours, 2 or something like that.
Yep.
Okay.
That includes paying their mileage.
Yes. All in favor? Thank you very much.
Can I just comment on another major report?
Please go ahead.
The Chief Mountain Regional Solid Waste Authority, Mayor, you asked me to ask if they were sending anyone to the recycling
Right.
conference in Brooks. Now, no one actually knew about it, so they wanted to bring it up in the next meeting. But I will just tell you that the sense I'm getting is that
They're not
probably
interested.
won't, yeah, it'll be each municipality that will be required to send somebody who's anything going on with respect to that conference. The interesting thing that I might add is that the Chief Mountain Solid Waste Authority is looking to put together a proposal to take over curbside collection and recycling. And I think that the in-house expertise in that authority with respect to recycling is exactly zero. So I don't know why
Correct.
they wouldn't send anyone, but I get the sense that they will.
Okay, Councillor, do you feel it would be appropriate for you to go?
I don't really want to go.
Yeah, we have had some people going to that conference, and honestly, it never has been a conference where I came back with a lot of actionable item afterwards, and that's the issue.
I don't think anyone's going to step into a phone booth after that conference and become Captain Recycler.
No, I don't think so either. And honestly, to tell you the truth, after having spoken with Scott Barton, I asked a question regarding the recycling and for the commission, and it appears to be that the curbside recycling is not in the near future, but it is on the radar, but as a long-term goal, because there's so much to do in between.
I know they're looking to do a proposal, I know they want to make something but they're looking for input from the municipalities with respect to what kind of a recycling program we see within the authorities.
Okay. Would you maybe like us to put this item on the next, on the CCW, where we can discuss it a little bit more in depth? Okay, so recycling and the depth of recycling we would like to see in our town. Okay, so that could be a good CCW topic. Thank you. Is there anything else on those committee reports? Go ahead.
So on mine, so I sit on the Parks and Rec board, and Randy Russell asked me if I could pull a meeting together the seniors to nail down exactly what their wants and needs were for their bocce ball court. So we did that yesterday, and the seniors, so we met with Leonard Purnell and Gloria Anderson, and Gloria showed up with a phenomenal drawing of exactly what they were after. And they've settled on an area, so the area now, and Randy, we wanted to get the approval, is up at the sewer treatment plant in that grassy area right there. The seniors are fine with it. It's close to bathrooms, it's flat. The money that we've already allotted Randy said he thinks we'll be fine to bring in some dirt and level it, and they were
Grass it.
thrilled. They've got a couple, reseed, throw some seed in there. They're going to put in a gate, so it's a little better, easy access for them, but the fence is already there. Like, it's minimal, and what they're asking for are 4 courts, and
Yes.
it's totally doable. So
Yes.
they were happy, Randy was happy. It seems like we're finally progressing in that situation.
Perfect. Wow, that's a good, thank you, Councillor. That's a good news.
Councillor
Councillor,
Brown, this is good news. Will it interfere with that community garden area?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Different
it's a
area.
fairly large area.
And I don't know if that community garden is.
It is still being used, it
Is
is,
it?
Yes.
but it's a completely different area. This one
Great.
is, right, yeah.
Okay, so essentially, do you need this council to give you approval for something? What is it that you're looking for?
Well, I wasn't sure if we needed to get council's approval to have it up there,
No.
because it's town property, so
No.
I just figured.
If
I
Parks
would
and
bring it
Recs
up.
manager feels that's a good
And
place,
he said,
we'll trust him.
Randy, that was his ideal spot. And so the fact that the seniors were able to come around,
Is that happy?
pardon?
We already made a motion in council too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we did.
no, we have, so that's good.
Okay.
Let's move on with it.
Okay,
Any other,
This does-
okay, ooh,
Just a quick
Council.
unofficial NPC.
yes.
I talked to the developer of the KFC. As far as he knows, everything's going ahead. There has been some question about it.
The problem was essentially.
The person that owned the land was kind of, but apparently that's all been solved, so.
Oh,
The
interesting.
mall and Lethbridge last week, so
so
Good.
it's progressing.
that's progressing.
Well, that's another good news. Councillor Bengry.
Just a note on this Parks and Recreation, I think our CAO needs to be fully aware of what's happening with this, the treatment plant. He is the CAO and he needs to be
What?
made known.
He is,
Okay.
yeah, he's been in on it.
I
He's
would
fully aware of it,
hope that his manager
yeah.
speaks to him.
Also, Mayor, when it comes to the Chinook Foundation,
Yes.
they've asked me and appointed me to be the chairman of the board for this year. And they have a national conference. They're a requisitioning board. All expenses will be paid. I will be attending that meeting in Red Deer.
Okay.
They've asked that we have represented there because of the Diamond Wood Terrace, the new
Yes.
building in McGrath.
Yes.
So I will be there.
So your expenses are paid.
Yes,
Your per diem?
I think everything, I'll check and make sure. And
Please
we-
make sure and bring it
that-
back at
that comes in
CCW.
April, so,
Okay, bring it back at
Yes.
CCW, try to
Thank you.
find the answer to that.
yes.
Appreciate all of you trying to stick your head to try to sit on board. It's no piece of cake, it's a lot of responsibility, but thank you for doing it.
Just, I guess, looking for some direction there with respect
Okay.
to the economic development committee.
Yes.
Have we got any other names, Jill, do you know?
For.
I put one name forward.
I'm not aware of any others.
Okay, all right. Can we talk about that? That is the names that have to be on committees, all that is a discussion for the in-camera. So we will look at committee members in camera.
But also,
And if you look at it, we have Chautauqua, MPC, ECDEP. All that will be discussed in camera under the 16.4F.
right, for the
Okay.
for the names, I get that.
Yes,
As far as the committee itself, I think what I'm looking for is some direction from council with respect to our proposal to
yes,
extend border hours and create a trade
okay.
corridor. I would like to see what the other council members feel about where we should. We have a bit of a framework from Alex, but there's a number of people I think we should be approaching. We should be
Okay.
talking to economic development, Lethbridge. We should
Right.
be talking to the chamber. We should be talking to the Chamber of Commerce with the chamber here with respect to the chamber in Kalispell and the Flathead Valley. We should be talking to the county, or at least getting a letter from them seeking their support. Is this something that South Grove would be?
Well,
You know, that,
I talked with them about it, and they're very keen on it, because they have.
okay. Here is something that I can touch on when I go to the South Grove meeting on Thursday, which is,
You're in Southwest, or I'm in Southwest. You're in
but
Southwest.
what you have to also realize that in South Grove, half of the members would be probably extremely happy to support this, and half can see the economic drawback for it. So South Grove is going to find themselves in an interesting position. So I will bring it up as a potential topic. But to go back to your needs, would you want us to put it to CCW in order to discuss that a little bit more in depth and start to develop a plan?
I'm not that patient. That's 2 weeks away.
But you know something, without the proper background, it'll be difficult to do right now. If you want to do it well.
I'm just looking for some input from the rest of, because I
Okay.
think there's others that we should be approaching, like, however we do this, the Minister of Tourism and Culture for the province, the Minister of Economic Development and Trade. I think we should be talking to our Member of Parliament, who's also on the opposition side with respect to the shadow
Cabinet.
Yeah, the shadow cabinet with respect to public safety, that's the bailiwick that he followed.
Essentially, what you need to decide is which are the proper steps to move that forward, right? Where do you start? What's your inkling?
I think my inkling is that we start talking, because I know it's out there, but it needs to be out into a broader audience. And I think that we need to, first of all, let's start with our own Chamber of Commerce and say, this is what we're doing, and we assume you're on board with this.
Okay, so do you want to do it by having a meeting with them, having them come here? How do you view it?
We should have a meeting with them.
So, do you want to do it as your dev committee? Okay, so that is something, you're on your dev, you have Alex, you have yourself, and who else is on it? Jeff is on it at this time.
That's it for now.
Okay, all right. So maybe that's where you want to start. And from there, do you want to have the MLA? We don't know when he is in town. We already kind of spoke with them, and he seemed to be favorable to the idea, wasn't he?
Mm-hmm.
So do we want to know what he's going to do with that request?
I'm sure that if we asked him to make someone from Alberta Tourism and Culture and Alberta Economic Development and Trade, whether it's
All right.
likely we'll never get an audience with the minister, but with somebody.
Okay, so essentially, you have one meeting with the Chamber of Commerce. The second one, you want to try to follow up on the MLA and the proposals that we give. So that's another follow-up. How do we want to do that? Do we want to write him? Do we want to phone him? Do we want to have a phone call that involves different parties?
I think we want to have a meeting.
Okay, all right. So we will have a meeting. With the MP, same thing. You would like a meeting? Okay. It's too bad we had this rep yesterday in town.
Well, that would have been nice to know.
Well, he just came. He visited the county, and he just dropped by the office.
Mayor, it's interesting that Councillor Selk in our correspondence, Lethbridge Destination Management Association is asking for, input from the tourism season.
That Lethbridge is going to support the other access.
Well, they will, and yet they're looking at also
You're going to support what?
the other access, Route 3 through Coos.
I mean, when we come to the correspondence, I'll talk to you a little bit about it.
Okay.
Okay. Any other comments on the reports, councillors? No?
Maybe, Mayor, I think it might be just simple if I make a motion to direct administration to set up
A
first a
meeting.
meeting with myself and Alex and Jeff, and then us to set up meetings with all of the other parties that we
Yeah.
talked about.
Okay.
I think that would be simpler than us
Yes.
going to CCW and dragging this on for,
Years.
Well, or
I will make the motion to direct administration. The first, set up a meeting with myself and Alex and Jeff within the next week. And then for the three of us to start getting meetings together with the other parties and entities that might be suitable. And then we will bring to CCW the results of what we have achieved
Okay.
so far.
all right, so you're definitely pushing it forward a little quicker, and it's good. All right, all in favor? Thank you very much. And thank you for your enthusiasm and that initiative. There is great potential there. All right, peace officer report.
No question.
No questions? Thank you. Appreciate that report. It's informative. All right, 9C, AUC Annual Compliance Report. Now, this is the Alberta Utility Commission. We have approved a quarterly report which says that we had no infractions. This one is a yearly report that deserves or request a motion to approve the annual compliance report that tells us that we had during the year no compliance issues.
And also move that we accept that report.
Yeah, so would you like to make the motion,
Make a
Councillor
motion that
Bengry?
we accept the annual compliance report from AUC.
Thank you, Alberta Utility Commission. Okay, all in favor? Thank you very much. The CEO report, as I told you, will be given at the CCW. It's going to be comprehensive, and there is about 12 or 13 items that you are going to be able to be briefed on. It's quite comprehensive, but Jeff, due to family issues, needs a little bit more time to put a final touch to that report, okay? All right, correspondence. The Lethbridge Destination Management Association. The Lethbridge Destination Management Association is a new creation of the town of Lethbridge, and it's going to separate itself from Chinook tourism. So it will affect us in some ways. In other words, we are members of the Chinook Tourism Association, and we pay dues, I believe. Jill, am I correct on this one? Are we still members of that association or not?
Of which association?
The Chinook Tourism.
I thought we were.
I think so, yes.
Yeah. So, in other words, right now, if we need to get more years of the Chinook, we're going to have to make sure we work with them. And hopefully the Remington.
Who's the councillor for that one?
We don't have any representative, and it's always was more or less in Jeff's department. So we need to be aware of that separation. And
Is it taking place at the senior?
it's going to be imminent. It's going to start this year.
This Lethbridge destination,
Yeah,
it's just
so-
an invitation to a meet and greet on
It's all
the
there.
evening of
Yeah.
Something-
In other words, I will explain a little bit what I want to do. If I really believe that Lethbridge could become a destination, you would have people that have worked that have worked around that portfolio and believe that it might not be possibly the very best idea, because I think that Lethbridge can be a hub where people come and from there go to destination rather than coming to Lethbridge as a destination, which means that for 2-3 days people would come and would have something to do with their family. And some are not convinced, but Lethbridge is convinced as a town, mayor and council. So we shall see. Okay? So at this point, the meeting is concluded, and we will go in camera. We have 3 items. We will deal with committee members' recommendations under 16.4F. We will deal with the draft of the Windmill Golf Course Golf Group contract under 16.1 A, B, C, I, and campground under the same section under 4 Act. So at this point, we need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion. Are we adjourning or are we going in
No,
camera?
no, sorry.
I'll make a motion to go in camera.
Thank you. Don't want to have another problem. Thank you. All in favor? Thank you. Do you need